Atomic energy program in India. The atomic energy program in India was a result of the vision that the Homi Jahangir Baba had of the potentialities of atomic energy. So the primary objective of the program are the generation of electric power and the development of nuclear applications for research, agriculture, medicine, industry and other areas. So let us see some of the atomic power plants in India. The atomic power plants in India. So the mainstay of India's atomic energy program are the atomic power plants. So the first power station, that is Tarapur Atomic Power Station at Tarapur in Maharashtra, has 2 units of boiling water reactors type, so which became operational in 1969. The second power station, Rajasthan Atomic Power Station at Rana Pratap Sagar near Kota in Rajasthan. So it has 2 units of pressurized heavy water reactor type, which became operational in 1985. So the third power station, Madras Atomic Power Station. So it has 2 units. It has the pressurized heavy water reactor type and were commissioned in 1985. So the 2 unit power plants at Narora in Uttar Pradesh and Kakrapur in Gujarat were commissioned in 1990s. So 2 units at Kaiga in Karnataka and 2 additional units at Rajasthan Atomic Power Station are under the construction. So India has a total of 9 power reactors. Okay, so contributing about 2% of the country's total electricity needs. So the atomic power plants use heavy water as the moderator. Heavy water plants are located at Nangal, Kota, Talchar, Baroda, Tuticorin and the Talvaishet and Manugaru. The nuclear fuel complex at Hyderabad supplies the fuel elements and also zircon alloy components. So the major breakthrough in the atomic energy programs was the successful nuclear implosion. So this is underground explosion at Pokhran in Rajasthan on May 18, 1974. So it was a plutonium device and the test was carried out at a depth of 10 to the power of 7 meters. So the nuclear implosion operation was directed by Dr. Rajaramana, a famous nuclear physicist hailing from Karnataka. So after about 2.5 decades, India carried out a series of 5 successful nuclear tests on May 11th and 13th, 1998 and became the 6th member of the exclusive club of declared nuclear weapon states. So next let us discuss about the nuclear fusion reactions. Nuclear fusion is the process in which 2 lighter nuclei combine to form a heavy and a more stable nucleus with the liberation of an enormous amount of energy. Example, the deuterium and tritium of hydrogen isotopes. So when these 2 isotopes combine, so they produce the helium isotopes by liberating emission of a neutron and enormous amount of energy. So in a fusion reaction, the mass of heavier nucleus formed is less than the total mass of the 2 lighter nuclei. Thus, just like a fission reaction, the source of energy in a fusion reaction is also the disappearance of mass, so which gets converted into energy. The fusion reactions are also called as the thermonuclear reactions because extremely high temperatures of about 200 million Kelvin are required for fusion reactions to take place. So the energy of sun supposed to arise from the fusion of hydrogen nuclei into helium nuclei, which is going on inside it all the time. So the various fusion reactions, so the taking place in the sun, are the two hydrogen nuclei. When they undergo fusion, so they produce the deuterium, so liberating enormous amount of energy. Okay, so the energy released in a fusion reaction is much more than that liberated during a fission reaction. So the the highly destructive hydrogen bomb is also based on the fusion reactions of hydrogen to form helium, producing a large amount of energy. Hydrogen bomb consists of an arrangement of nuclear fission in the center, surrounded by a mixture of deuterium and lithium isotope. Fission or atom bomb provides the high temperature necessary to start the fusion. So here you can see the various reactions taking place in the hydrogen bomb. So the fission in the center, the fission reaction takes place in the center, so that produces enormous amount of energy and the neutrons. So the neutrons produced by the fission reaction, so they will bombard with the lithium nucleus, forming the tritium and the helium. So the next reaction you can see the deuterium and the tritium combine to form the helium nuclei, so releasing enormous amounts of energies. So the fusion energy is superior to fission energy. So because there is no problem of pollution due to nuclear waste, the fusion energy is greater than the fission energy. Only lighter elements are used in the fusion reactions. So let us see some of the differences between nuclear fission and nuclear fusion reactions. So here you can see the first difference. So in case of a nuclear fission reaction, a heavy nuclei splits up into two lighter nuclei. So whereas in case of nuclear fusion reaction, two lighter nuclei combine to form a heavy nucleus. So the next one, in case of nuclear fission, is a chain reaction. So nuclear fusion is not a chain reaction. So the nuclear fission reactions are carried out by bombarding the heavy nuclei with neutrons. So in case of fusion reactions are carried out by heating the lighter nuclei to extremely high temperatures. So the next difference is that nuclear fission produces a large amount of energy. So whereas in case of fusion reactions, the energy produced in a nuclear fusion reaction is much more than that produced during the fission. So the nuclear fission reactions can be controlled to produce the electricity, whereas the nuclear fusion reactions have not been controlled so far. So the large amount of nuclear waste is left during the nuclear fission reaction, whereas no nuclear waste is left during a nuclear fusion reaction. The temperature required for the nuclear fission reaction is not very high, whereas the temperature required for the reaction is very high, of about 10 power 8 degree Celsius. So with the methods available for artificial disintegration of elements, so it has been now possible to obtain almost any element artificially. The elements produced artificially are usually radioactive and have atomic masses different from the normal stable isotopes. So these artificially produced isotopes are called radioisotopes. The presence of these radioisotopes can be easily detected because of their radioactivity. So therefore, they are used in various chemical and industrial processes. So let us discuss about the use of the radioactive, the tracers. So the presence of radioactive isotope can be traced. That means it can be detected and measured by means of certain sensitive instruments like the Geiger-Müller counter. So the radioactive isotopes used to trace the path followed by it in a reaction, like in a plant or in a human body, etc., is called as the radioactive tracer. So the use of the radioactive isotopes as the tracers is based on the fact that the radioactive and non-radioactive isotopes of the same element possess essentially the identical properties. So let us see the general procedures for the radioactive tracing. So a known weight of the compound under examination is mixed with a small but known amount of the tagged or labeled compound. So this compound contains a radioactive isotope of one of the elements present in the compound under examination. So the course of the reaction is followed by tracing the path of the tagged radioactive element. Okay, so let us see how this radioactive tracing can be used to know the mechanism of photosynthesis in plants. So a small quantity of radioactive carbon dioxide having the radioactive isotope of oxygen 18 is mixed with ordinary water H2O, and the reaction is allowed to take place in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. As a result, glucose and non-radioactive oxygen is formed. So it means that the evolved O2 has come from water containing the non-radioactive oxygen and not from the CO2. So that is, the CO2 contains the radioactive oxygen. Hence the reaction mechanism. So here we had written the reaction mechanism: 6 carbon dioxide molecules, 6 water molecules to form glucose and 6 molecules of oxygen. It is not correct. Okay, so the correct mechanism so can be written as 6 carbon dioxide and 12 water molecules to form a glucose, 6 water molecules and 6 oxygens. So such reactions which involves the exchange of an atom by its radioactive isotope are called as the exchange reactions. So next let us see the application of this tracer technique in the agriculture. So the radioactive phosphorus, that is P32, when it is present in the fertilizer, is being used to investigate the rate and the manner of the absorption of the fertilizer. So moreover, by such studies it is possible to know separately about the proportion of the plant's phosphorus coming from the soil and from the fertilizer. Thus, about the kind of fertilizer which is best for a given soil and crop. So the whole process is studied by the radioautography. So the radioautography is based on the fact that beta particles and gamma rays emitted in a decay of radioisotopes produce images on a special photographic plate. For example, a tomato leaf fed with radioactive phosphorus is placed on a photographic plate. The picture obtained clearly exhibit the areas of concentration of the radioactive phosphorus. So by using the radioautograph technique, it is possible to follow the distribution of sulfur 35 supplied as a sulfate to a plant and the movement of liquids in certain plants has been traced by using the radioactive phosphates. So next let us see one more use of radioactive, that is tracing. So the detection of necessary elements for the plant. So the use of radioisotopes gave the information about the use and need of elements like iron, cobalt, copper, manganese, zinc and molybdenum. So the next one, let us see the effectiveness and harmfulness of fungicides. So many fungicides contain sulfur. So using S35, sulfur 35, the effectiveness of a fungicide and in some cases the damage to the fruit resulting from its application can be known. So for example, tracer techniques shows that sulfur dusted on lemon fruit will penetrate the peel to a sufficient depth to cause the injury to the fruit. So let us see the application of radioisotopes in the field of medicine. So in the studying the circulation of blood, so sodium 24 is being used in studying the circulation of blood. So normally when a radioactive sodium in the pharma, sodium chloride is injected in the bloodstream, it should pass from the forearm to the foot in its maximum concentration within half an hour. So the course of the tracer can be followed by means of a Geiger-Müller counter. So if there is any obstruction, the time period will be longer. So also it is possible to detect the areas of obstruction and the degree of obstruction from which it can be known whether the medical treatment is sufficient or amputation is required. So in a severe obstruction, the counter may serve to indicate at what level the amputation should be performed. So next let us see the use of radio tracer elements in the detection of tumors. So certain labeled atoms, for example the radioactive iodine, are preferentially used in tumor growths. This property has been utilized in locating the brain tumors and sometimes their limit of growth can also be determined. So other applications of radioisotopes in medicine may be discussed as, so by means of tracer iron it has been possible to improve the methods of storing the blood. So the second application, the tracer iron has been used in studying the disturbances associated with the pregnancy. So from tracer studies, so it was found that the phospholipid, so a fatty phosphorus compound found in blood plasma is formed in the liver. So the tracer studies shows that thyroxine, the iodine containing amino acid which is important in the functioning of the thyroid, is produced in muscular and intestinal tissues. So the next one, that tracer studies shows that the reserve iron is stored in the mucous membrane of the intestine within the body. So next let us see the use of radioisotopes in the therapeutic use in case of cancer. So many radioisotopes have been successfully used in checking the growth of or the removing the cancer cells. The most important active isotope has been cobalt 60, radium, iodine, phosphorus 32 and gold 198. Okay, so the most important active isotopes which are used in the detection and removing the cancer cells are the cobalt 60, radium, iodine, which is used for the detection of thyroid cancer, and phosphorus 32 and gold 198. So the radioactive phosphorus in the form of phosphate is widely used in the treatment of certain blood disorders. The oral ingestion of phosphorus 32 isotope in the form of a phosphate is used in the control of polycythemia, so in which the bone marrow produces an excess of red blood cells. The beta activity of phosphorus prevents the formation of the excess red blood corpuscles. The same treatment is used for another abnormal blood condition known as the leukemia, which is caused by the overproduction of white corpuscles. So, the radioactive cobalt 60 is used nowadays as a source of radiation for the radiotherapy and in the treatment of cancer. So, the radioactive cobalt 60. So, radioactive cobalt 60 is used in the radiotherapy in the treatment of cancer. So, next let us see the radiocarbon dating. So, this radiocarbon dating is a technique has been developed to find out the age of the archaeological objects. So, the principle behind this carbon dating is that all living matter contains a definite amount of radioactive carbon, that is carbon 14 isotope, so present in the upper atmosphere, so which is formed by the action of cosmic rays on nitrogen 14. Okay, so the nitrogen, when it is bombarded with the neutrons, the carbon 14 isotope is formed. So the carbon 14 on oxidation forms the radioactive carbon dioxide and mixes with carbon dioxide having the atomic that is mass number 12. Since the carbon 14 decays constantly, so the ratio of carbon 14 and carbon 12 remains constant. So the half-life period is about 5770 years. So due to photosynthesis, carbon dioxide containing a carbon 14 element and carbon 12 carbon dioxide are absorbed by plants. Hence the ratio of carbon dioxide and carbon dioxide containing the carbon atom of mass 12 in the living plants and animals who heat the plants remains the same as in the atmosphere. So where the tree is cut, its cycle stops. So the ratio of carbon 14 and carbon 12 atoms in the wood begin to diminish because of the constant disintegration of carbon 14. Since the half-life period of carbon 14 is 5770 years, the ratio of carbon 14 and carbon 12 atom will give the idea of age of dead wood or animal. That is the length of time that elapsed after the death of the living wood or the animal. So by using this relation, that is T half is equal to 0.693 divided by lambda, and we know the that is the formula, the relation lambda is equal to 2.03 divided by T into log of n naught divided by n. So it is worth noting that older the sample, smaller will be the carbon 14 count rate is. The samples having up to 50,000 years can be accurately calculated.